Let's talk business. This is something I am so passionate about. Ever since I was a little girl, I've been so passionate about business and the transformation and evolution of what it looks like. As I've navigated my journey through the expansion of consciousness, I've learned how businesses operate and how they can be changed in a way that is completely revolutionized and completely changes the landscape and how we relate to ourselves, to one another, and how we engage and exchange on the marketplace. So, as I go through and talk today, I'm going to be sharing personal examples of my beliefs around business and truly the way that the landscape of business and how it's done is changing and how to be on board with it because it's coming and it's going to be revolutionary and I'm so excited for it. So, ever since I was little, I was always fascinated about business. I was very fortunate to grow up under my parents, who both own a business together, and I got to see what it was like from the inside out, what it was like to run a business. For the for several early years in my life, their business was run out of our home. So I would get to every day when I came home from school, I would get to go upstairs and go see all the employees and really get to experience what it was like being in a workplace, right? Even though it was in a home, it was a workplace environment. And at the time, computers were huge, big boxes, and there were wires everywhere. And it was just, things have changed so much, but I got to experience a workplace environment from a very young age. And I became very fascinated and very curious with the interrelations of the employees and the services that were provided to the clients. We would spend our dinner times talking about the business and talking about what was happening in the interpersonal relationships. And I always was so fascinated with it. So I had this mindset growing up, or these beliefs growing up, that really sparked my curiosity in this. And it developed and grew as time went on. One of, so I did work in my family business here and there growing up, but one of the first jobs that I ever had was at a frozen yogurt place. And this was my first experience outside of, the business that I had always known or grown up seeing that really illustrated to me different ways that businesses are run. And one of the first things that I was very, very surprised about when I stepped into the interview was how little the hiring manager actually cared about my skills and abilities and who I was as a person, and was really just trying to fill a role. So I had actually had a friend that worked this job, and she mentioned that they were hiring, and I was looking for a job that summer. So I went in on a day that I knew the manager was going to be there. And I walked up and I said, "Hi, is the manager here? I'm here to apply for a job." And he came out and he sat down and he asked me like maybe two or three questions about myself, and was really just more focused on me filling out the paperwork that was in front of me, and getting me hired and going from there. So that was like the first thing that I recognized, which was like, interesting. I was like, either he has a lot of trust because he knows the person that recommended me or referred me, right, to work here. And he thinks she does good work, and so therefore maybe he thinks that I would do good work too. Or he really just cares about filling positions and making sure that his bottom line is met, which is he has employees in his store. Um, and that's kind of what his MO is about. He was very nice and very polite, but I thought of it as the former for a really long time. That maybe it was just based on the like interpersonal relationship and wasn't so much about the bottom line. But as time went by, I started to notice how he would operate the business and how his manager would operate it would lead him. And I recognized that this was very much an operation of just numbers on a balance sheet for them. And this isn't to say that um, this particular store or restaurant industry, this isn't to make any generalizations about anything. It's just to say that this was my very first experience in working in the food service industry, and it was surprising to me the little seeming attention and care to the actual people, the actual employees, and making the business thriving and successful, and more so about the numbers and meeting quotas and the bottom line. The way that I had seen it growing up was very people focused. Um, my parents ran their business like a family. So their employees have and were and always have been very close to them. And so it was just a really stark difference for me and a different realization. And I started to notice how things worked in a hierarchical fashion. This was a franchise. And shortly after I left for at the end of the summer, that specific location went out of business and or it closed down, it shut down. So it wasn't driving in, I guess, enough traffic for it to stay. But there's so many things that could have been a factor to that, and I'm not sure what. But I did take into account the uniqueness of how people are treated when it comes to the business. So that was like my first real experience. When I was in college, I started to go, I had two internships while I was in college, and I learned a little bit more, but this was specifically now through my lens in the profession, which was financial planning. So I got to see how other people operated. And this was like so exciting to me and so fascinating because each place that I interned had a very unique way of leadership. And as I went into my first job and started my career, and I've been at a few jobs, so I've got to see a different array of how people run their businesses. I would notice, and very, very early on, because I am very intuitive and can sense energies as well, I would notice very early on how the energetics of the business were run. So, what do the energetics of the business mean? What does that look like? So, to me, and what I have deduced, what I have realized is that there's the people, the employees of the firm, there's the structure, how things are done, the operations, the systems, the things that keeps things moving, right? But there's also an energetic frequency, an energetic footprint of the business. And this exists outside of the physical man-made world. This lies in the values of the firm, why they do what they do, their purpose, their mission. And a lot of these energetics can be expressed, on websites. You see, this is our mission, this is our vision, and all of that. But the way that it's actually lived is the energetics of it. So it was curious to me to see how people would present their purpose, their mission statement and their vision statement and live it, express it energetically in such a different way. And I was fascinated by this because in the financial planning industry, a lot of companies make the same claim, which is we put our clients first, we deliver the best service. A lot of the firms that I've worked at are fee only, so that's another edge or element that they add, like we're a fee only financial advisor. So there's a lot of commonalities in which financial planning firms say this is how we do business, right? And then when it comes to how you differentiate that, it's differentiated a lot by niche. So I work specifically with lawyers. I work specifically with dentists. I work specifically with accountants, right? So that is kind of the way that financial planning firms and this industry has set out to differentiate themselves is through a niche. And this is common across a lot of different industries and a lot of different professions. This is just what I'm familiar with. But what people aren't aware of and what is actually changing, the undercurrents of what's changing in business and the direction that we're moving is not having the niche be the thing that defines the business, or not having this is what I do, this is the services I provide, and things like that define the business, but the actual energetic structure of the business itself. And this moves beyond the purpose in the vision statement, and here's why. Because the purpose and the vision statement are um, they currently serve as guidelines for the internal business and for, how they operate in the world. But so many businesses that are operating today are not actually living out their vision and their mission statement. And what does it look like to actually live out your vision and mission statement? People think that to live that out looks like what they do for their clients. And I vastly disagree. I greatly disagree with this. And I think that business done in a completely new way is going to look like, how can we have the most incredible people working for this company who are completely aligned with the mission and the vision and the purpose of this company, and how do they live out that experience in their individual personal lives, and how does that translate to the work that they're doing and what they provide? Some companies are doing this, but not a lot. Because, like I said in the example that I had at my first job, they couldn't care less who I was. They really couldn't. I was just to them a number. Someone who could probably adequately do the job and do it decently well. People who invest in really incredible talent recognize that the greatest assets that you will ever have in your company is the people that work for you. It will be yourself and the people that work for you. Why? Because they are an extension of the business that you do. They are an extension of what it is that you stand for and why you even established this business in the first place. Which I will say, there's an incredible video by Simon Sinek that's called It Starts With Why. And he did a TED Talk several years ago, and I would highly recommend watching it because it really gets down to the core of why a business is in business. Why do we do what we do? Why? It gets us to answer that question. So businesses moving forward that will have an incredible impact on this world will be able to answer their why. They will be able to clearly identify their mission and their vision statement. And not only that, they will actually live it. They will actually live it. And that's what's going to change. We've started to see this in the investing world. We've started to see this with what's known as ESG, environmental social governance, ESG funds. And so what these specific mutual funds offer are ways to align your values with how you invest. So say someone really really feel strongly about the oil industry, and they don't want to be invested in companies that are, producing oil in unethical ways. There are specific ways to invest your dollars in funds that are not catered to unethical practices. There are specific funds that are related to the environment. So it really was, ESG was birthed from a lot of environmental causes, like how can we invest our money in ways that actually in companies and businesses that actually sustain the planet or are really pushing, moving forward into innovating in ways that are beneficial for the environment and not harming the environment, right? But it branched out to, animal cruelty practices and um, weapons is another thing. So, investing in firearms and there's healthcare. Like there's so many things that you can now say, I want to put my dollars to this and this specifically. So as environmental social governance is rising, ESG, these funds are arising in the marketplace, we're going to see a shift in consumer demand as well towards investing our dollars not just in what makes us the most money, but in things that actually align with our values. And so this is coming from a business perspective, but it's also coming from a consumer perspective because you have a buyer and a seller in a marketplace, right? And so when we look at how the marketplace is going to change, how business is going to change, it's going to move in the direction of values-based um, exchanges. And so one of the books that I picked up recently is called Unreasonable Hospitality. And it's a new book and I just started reading it, so I don't have a ton of things to share on it yet. But it talks about how the common element that um, runs through business is yet not the service that you provide or the product that you deliver or anything like that. The common element in all of business is the care and the connection that you have for the people. It comes back to the people. It comes back to that connection. It comes back to that value. And so this is the way that business is trending. And so when you have these multi-mega corporations, you ask yourself, do I really feel like I'm engaging in a meaningful connection? Say you go to a Walmart, say you buy something online from Amazon, right? The experience that you're having is going to be a very different experience than walking into your local store and buying the item that you need and being greeted by the employee that works there. It's going to be a different experience. And we have normalized we have normalized buying and consuming from huge corporations because we have valued time, money, ease, the ability to just like press a button on our phone and receive whatever it is that we want at our fingertips, right? Those are the things that we have valued. But our values as humanity, as humans, is shifting. Like we are going through an evolution of consciousness, and the things that we have valued up until this point are clearly resembling on the world stage right now as something that might not be sustainable and might not be in the best interests of all of humanity and might not be great for us going forward. All of the wars, all of the poverty, all of the scarcity, all of the corruption, right? Maybe there's a different way. Maybe we can do things different. And so when we look at um, the values that we've held individually and collectively, and those start to shift, it will shift the business marketplace. It will shift how we relate to one another, how we relate to ourselves, and we will come back again. Dare I say a Renaissance era, like dare I say an era where the shift in value moves less on productivity, efficiency, um, the center of being the profits, like profits being the primary driver of business. How many times have you heard in a business the bottom line being related to money, right? Why is the bottom line related to money? Why is the bottom line to cut costs as much as possible and increase revenue as much as possible? Why is that the bottom line? Why is it not, what's the greatest level of value that I can provide? What is the greatest service that I can do? What is the unreasonable hospitality that I can provide? Like, what does that look like? Because when you go into an experience or an exchange and the the way the energetics in which the company is operating is purely off of profit, purely off of, capitalizing on their efforts and um, the bottom line is of the business first, you start to question and you start to ask, well, is this the type of business that I want to engage with? Or do I want to engage as a consumer in business that is really connecting? It really invokes that feeling of connection between me and the other person, or me and the company. Or by purchasing this product, I know that I am representing something that really matters to me. This is something that I really care about and really value. And by purchasing this product or this service, I know that I am aligning with my own values, with the company, with the product, because I am choosing to make that decision. And so this is why things are changing, is because we're looking at the stage, the world stage right now, and saying, wow, really? This is the best we can do. Like, as humanity, this is the best we can do. Just think about it for a moment. We've advanced so much in technology and our ability to connect, pick up the phone, call anyone, FaceTime anyone, video call anyone. We've we've developed ways in which connection should be right at our fingertips. It's right on our phones. It's right on our um, in our hands. But why are we feeling so disconnected as a society? Why are we feeling so separate from one another? Why are we feeling so disconnected from the people that we engage with in a business marketplace exchange? Why are we feeling so disconnected from our communities and just the people that we engage with on an everyday basis? Where have our values been, and where do our values need to shift to in order to create a society and a community, a world global community that values something beyond war and corruption and greed? So as a consumer, think about, where are you investing your money? Where are you investing your time, your energy? Where are you putting your purchasing power? What are you buying? And as a business owner, as someone who is interested in business or curious about learning more about business, ask yourself, why am I doing this? What am I here to serve? How can I live out my mission and my purpose in a way that is beyond just the product or the service I'm delivering? How can I live it out in every word that I speak and every interaction that I have? When I go to the grocery store to pick up groceries, how am I living out my vision and my purpose and my mission? It's who you be. This is the bottom line, if you will, of what we're awakening to, is everything that you do is a reflection of who you be. And so when we start to look at who we be and start to really ask, what do I value? What is important to me? What is at the core of everything that I do? And move from there, your life will begin to look really different. One of the things that I established really early on when I was contemplating this was I went through a values exercise, and I looked up a bunch of values, right? What are values? And I found a list, and I read through the list and I was like, okay, what is it that I value? And I started to select some. And through the process, the one that I found rung true the most for me was truth. And when I discovered that, I recognized this is the most important value to me, is that truth is at the center of everything that I be and everything that I do. Integrity is at the center of everything that I be and everything that I do. So truth is the value, the ultimate expression, or the truth is the value, integrity is how it looks. So if I value truth, then when I am acting on that, I'm being truthful, but I'm acting in integrity. So I'm having my words match my actions. I'm honoring what I say. I'm honoring what I believe. I'm honoring how I do things. So understanding that this value is like at the core of who I am and what I do, it became so abundantly clear to me that my word and my actions are so aligned. And this was like a natural progression of establishing this as the center of who I be. Is that now when I communicate, I, well, I've always communicated in this way because lying has been like very difficult for me always. It just has. Um, But now it's like I communicate as clearly as I possibly can in the level of awareness that I have in that moment, in the current state that I'm in that moment. And I communicate with integrity. So sometimes integrity means saying yes, sometimes integrity means saying no, and sometimes integrity means saying I don't know. There's no like right or wrong way. It's very like in that moment and what it is that I am choosing to believe and honor, like what am I feeling? But I also navigate it through my word. So if I make a commitment to something and I say, I'll be here at this time, I will be there at that time. I will show up. So I take my the things that I agree to, the word I match the words that I have with action. So when you start to ask yourself what it is that you're valuing, you get to see how you live that value in your life. And asking yourself these questions first will help you so quickly align with the people and the businesses and the experiences that you're meant to have that also resonate at this frequency and at this value. Because like I shared earlier, the the evolution of business that we're moving to is the awareness of not just the physicality, but the actual energetics of the business. And every single company that I've worked for, I have seen the energetics of the business so clearly mapped out that it's like so abundantly obvious to me why things aren't working, how things could be improved. And this is why at every single place that I've worked, I've come in and completely revamped, completely changed the internal structure of how things are done. Every single firm, without question, I have done this completely because I have the ability to see not just the physical product, the physical representation. I can see the energetics and I can see so many things. And it's because I'm so clear in what it is that I value and so clear in what it is that um, is true for me that I've opened up the ability to really recognize and see this in how others are doing business. And this is a gift that I am so grateful for and I'm so passionate about because just as we evolve as humans, individually in our consciousness, we also evolve in the connections that we have, the impact that we have on people, the way that we do business, the way that we work, the way that we operate. And this is so, so, so incredible to be living through this change and this evolution. And so when I do business very differently than my how I've seen it done. I've always come into businesses and seen them do it a different way and know exactly how I would do different. Exactly. And now I get the opportunity to do it different. I get to do it the way that is true and authentic to me, which is from an energetic standpoint first, from the values, from the intention, from actually living what it is that you preach, from embodiment. I have such impeccable integrity and such impeccable standards in what it is that I do and the services that I provide. And there are others that are doing this as well, and you will find them. And the fastest way to find them is by aligning to your own values and what is true for you. Asking yourself, what type of buyer do I like to be? What type of consumer do I like to be? Start there. How do I actually like to experience this life? How do I like to experience connection? Same thing from the business owner's perspective. How do I love to serve the people that I am serving? How are my values interwoven into everything that I say and do? Every social media post that I make, every podcast interview that I go on, every stage that I speak on. How is everything that I say and do a reflection of what it is that I value, what it is that I stand for, why I'm here? And how can I connect with others in this way, in this energetic way, and provide like unreasonable hospitality, right? Unreasonable service. This is something it's like so near and dear to my heart because I've grown up seeing this my whole life. And these codes, this way of living just it lives within me. And the blueprints, the ways in which this transformation is happening is like I'm living and breathing it. And I get to share that with so many incredible people in ways like this and in the work that I do. So remember what it is that you stand for, why you're here, what's important to you, because you are part of the very framework of how connection is made on this planet, of how business is done on this planet. So start there. You've got this.